And I recently had a chat this week with Lacey Seibel with the Barefoot Horse. Lacey has a bachelor's in science. She has done lots of study, and her degree is in soil and nutrition. And so with that being said, a lot of information that she shares is not only personal research, but also backed with a degree. And we have both done talks in the past, which you can find tagged in the pinned post of the Essentially Equine Therapies Facebook page, in which we've talked a lot about diet. My particular mantra is healthy on a budget, and I have a diet outline for that. Lacey and I are both admins of a group dedicated towards EMS, metabolic, and Cushing horses, but all the diet information in there is how we traditionally feed any horse, but yet even tailored towards that to gear towards holistic healing and reversal of these issues. And so we have a lot of personal experience with our own horses, rescue horses, as well as client horses, and those who have taken our information to heart and truly implemented it as we had spelled it out and not just taken bits and pieces. So a lot of that data that we both have, we love sharing with people about our experiences and what we've learned. So with that being said, quick topic of magnesium. I asked Lacey the question this week in regards to magnesium, because I've been seeing some posts. She and I have been feeding magnesium for a while. She's going to actually share some of the background of what she went through with one of her horses and feeding it. But I kept seeing it pop up where people were saying the magnesium oxide specifically needed to be at 56%. And I made suggestions in which people could do it on a budget and order from their local feed store. And I think some were under the impression that not just any magnesium oxide is 56% and what that entails. So I asked this question to Lacey. I said, explain to me what everyone's talking about. Have I been feeding the wrong magnesium this whole time? I thought we were on the right track, but we've seen such improvements from our horses. Well, turns out the feed store magnesium oxide that my local feed store ordered for me does say 56% on the bag. So depending on where you're ordering from, and though it has a little more, Lacey explains very well in this next clip. So go ahead and give a listen.
So that's a great question on magnesium. The magnesium oxide that you can get from feed stores or feed mills, where you can just get raw ingredients for your horse's feed if you want to try and balance and do things on your own, pretty much all of it is 56% that I know of. And it should say that right on the bag. It'll say magnesium oxide or calcinate, whatever it is, and it should tell you the percentage of magnesium that is in it. So that means that every tablespoon you're feeding, the grams that you're feeding, only 50% or 56% of it is actually magnesium. So you have to do the math to see how many grams you want to feed. Typically it's 20 to 40 grams a day, and horses that are more towards being metabolic, laminitic, overweight, or you see having issues on spring and fall grasses, or like you were talking about, the swelling in the teeth or around the neck, around the eyes. Sometimes you can even see swelling in the body. In geldings and stallions, you might see it in their sheaths. Those are usually signs that they need magnesium. It's just part of the whole EMS picture. So feeding that magnesium oxide, what I had found with my horses was, and their average size, 1,000 to 1,200 pounds, feeding about a quarter cup or 4 tablespoons a day is when I really noticed the differences. I've tried a lot of different types of magnesium, and magnesium oxide tends to be the cheapest and the easiest to feed because it's not bitter and they don't notice if you're upping the amount in it, whereas some of the other magnesiums, they do notice it. Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate, can cause diarrhea, so you can't feed a whole lot of that. Magnesium citrate and a few of the others you have to dissolve in water first, which if you're already soaking the feed isn't a huge deal. It's just one more step. So the magnesium oxide tends to be easier for people to just add in. I noticed the biggest difference with my mare on Mag Restore, which is dimagnesium malate, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. And that's a little bit more pricey. It's about, if I remember right, it's about $45 a month. And you can do that seasonally if you have a horse that seems to react more in the spring or fall when the grasses are changing and the temperatures are fluctuating and their hormones are changing. That's something you can add in if you notice they aren't getting the results that you'd like to see on just the magnesium oxide. I noticed a big difference with her feeding the Mag Restore compared to the magnesium oxide. And gravelproof.org is a great website to look at because they have been doing this for years and years and years, and they have found that feeding the magnesium in higher amounts actually takes care of a lot of the things that we try to balance typically with the horse's diets, as far as lowering the iron, upping the copper and zinc, and getting all of that balance. They have found that they don't have to do that when they up the magnesium. And I did notice that because sometimes our hays are really high in iron, and in order to balance out the zinc and copper, you're feeding a lot of it, and those minerals are very bitter by themselves, and it's almost impossible to find feeds that have high enough copper and zinc in them, so you almost always have to add them individually unless you're getting something like California Trace, or there's a few other like Vermont Blend and Kiss minerals, but I have found a lot of horses really don't like those, probably due to the higher amounts of copper and zinc. So magnesium is cheaper and easier to add in. As you saw, you can get a 50-pound bag for pretty cheap, whereas if you went the route of going through California Trace and getting the little, I think it's only like a 1 to 5 pound bag or bucket of the 60% magnesium, it's pretty pricey. It's like 40 to $60. I think a pound is around 20, or it was around 25 last time I looked. And I had started out with that, but it's just so expensive to feed the amount that you need to see the difference, and the iron amounts is really kind of negligible when you look at them. So you are correct. The magnesium oxide is just fine. It's actually very, very hard to overdose a horse on magnesium, and some of them require almost double the amount of regular horses if they do have the metabolic issues. So it's just a way easier, way cheaper way to give them what they need. And of course, we know magnesium isn't only balancing the deficiencies and the grasses and stuff like that, but it has to do with, I think it's like over 350 metabolic reactions in the body. So it also helps calm horses that are anxious or nervous or tight in their body. It helps with their muscles, helps with their mind. And I even noticed my mare on the Mag Restore was a super, super deep brown this year when I was feeding that to her, whereas previous years when I was doing just the magnesium oxide at 20 to 30 grams a day, she was like a lighter chocolate color, and this year she was almost black brown when she shed out in the spring. So it did make a massive difference, and it did seem to help her mind-wise and just with all of the other issues that she had going on in the past. So that is my long answer to whether 57% is okay and whether regular magnesium oxide is actually 57% and saving yourself a little bit of money.
Thank you so much for clarifying, because I wanted to make sure that I was on the right track, and this seems to be a hot topic right now, and only because this week I have come across the horses that going into the fall, the levels and hormones are rising, the allergies are more present. We do have a lot of these Cushing metabolic symptoms in the forms of the crusty necks, fat pockets, swelling of the eyes, watering of the eyes, swollen teats. I've been milking some teats of some of the horses I've been working on this week, and swelling of the head as well, behind the ears, and all of these things. I know magnesium has helped with my own horses showing these signs, and your horses, but seeing some of that information out there made me second guess myself. And thank you so much for clarifying that with your background and the information that you've done on it, and obviously even more extensive study into it. So we will link the EMS group that we both spoke about, that Lacey mentioned, in the comments and or in this video and or in the posts where these are shared. You can always find each of us on Facebook at essentiallyequinetherapies.com is my website. Lacey's, you can go to the Barefoot Horse on the Facebook page to learn more about some of this stuff. And again, we will get the links through for the EMS group, because that is very, very helpful. And this is just an important part, because our horses are really kind of missing out on some of this stuff. And this is what we talk about with being domesticated and not being out in the wild. So supplementing these wild-like things really does help them. And it's cool tracking these improvements over time. So thanks, Lacey, so much for being a part of this. And if you guys like and want to hear more mini episodes like this, then please share, please like, please comment, and let us know so that we can do this for you, because we are thinking of addressing more topics, and we want to move into some of these metabolic things later on in the next episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Chelsea out.